Well, hello everyone. Good to see you all, especially since we were cut off from Friday. So, my name is Jan Erickson. This is my YouTube channel called Mindful Monad. I am Hyperian, and I like to give commentary and reactions to a medley of things, mostly worldwide events and anything that affects the state of humanity. So tonight is Worldview Wednesday, and I want to primarily focus on the East Palestine Ohio issue with the derailment of the train and why it is very much money motivated. Now, if you are new to my channel, I have covered this issue earlier, and this is going to be more of a deep dive. There's a particular video shared by Philip in which I want to watch along with you, so hopefully we are able to watch this. And before we get started on that, I want to just take a little bit of time to wait for everybody to get in and just chit chat with everybody. So yeah, my power went out because I live in an area where there's been a lot of storms going on. A lot of storming going on. Anyways, so Thursday night I was participating in Morg's live stream and as a moderator, and the power cut out then. It did not get turned back on till about Saturday, a little bit afternoon, and then it's been on until Tuesday, just before I left for work. It cut out again. There was transformers that exploded, but by the time I got home from work, like literally as I walked in, it flickered back on, so that was a good deal. But I just have had the most horrible of luck. Either the power goes out or the internet fluctuates out. Either way, that's sort of the what? Just the gamble of living in a very remote foresty place, I guess. Really tiny town. So, before we get started, I would love to say hello. I see, first off, Cassie and Susan, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate that. And for the first time ever, okay, here's something special. Here's something super special right now. I actually have a second monitor to delegate the windows of the stuff I'm viewing. And I'm so excited. I wanted to use it Friday, obviously, but the power outage happened. But, like, this is the first time I get to use a secondary screen, and already I'm so happy that I have a separate viewing screen from the screen that I use for, like, the utility part of the live streaming, if that makes sense. I forgot to grab a tissue. I'm still struggling with allergies. Hold on, I'll be right back. Okay. We don't need the music anymore. So, so we are going to watch a video shared by Philip, and it's about how corporate greed destroyed East Palestine. And this isn't the only incident where there's been a town in America that's been destroyed by corporate greed. There's a number of things. And I've been rather interested in this sort of concept, not because I like it, by all means. It's rather terrible. But it's interesting to me, the reasonings behind abandoned towns, and in this case, can't quite be so abandoned at this point. Because of so many limitations, financial limitations, social situations, that people can't necessarily escape East Palestine right now. So we are going to be doing a little bit of a deep dive. This video is about 38. Yeah, 38 minutes, almost 40 minutes. This is the right amount of video to review today. So I want to bring you all in on this journey, and I want to explore the deeper meanings behind this. And like I said, if you want to see and check out the original commentary that I gave in the beginning of this issue, you can find so back through my live stream options. So anyways, I feel like I'm gonna sneeze. That's why I'm like being really slow right now. Sorry. I'm gonna sneeze. I'm so sorry. I hate that. Why is my phone ringing? No, stop it. I don't... What? Man. Anyways. On to saying hello. I see Cassidy, a royal lurker. Good to see you. I see Mistress Angelica. Always good to see you. Liz Leaf. Renaissance Fairy. Always good to see you. And oh, if you haven't already, please like the video and share it on your personal social platforms, I guess. I don't know what to call these things recently. I feel so awkward without the music. Okay, let me bring it. I wanted to try very specifically not to have music. But there's something weird about it. I don't know. Anyways. VKG, good to see you. Yeah, I like it with the music too, Cassidy. It's just, I feel like, I don't know. Either I need to make my own Mindful Monad intro set or sort of support somebody else in making that. All right, let's see. Gotta make this bigger. Pop-up chat. All right. So, hey, Hyperion Frequency, good to see you, Lee. Welcome to Monad. Let's write your name on the board. I know it's kind of hard to see because the whiteboard is like way back there, and there's a little bit of like a depth perception to the camera, so you don't always see things quite clearly, but you are there, my dear. Oh, that's good. I'm sorry you had stress. Yeah, that sucks. But, you know, I really appreciate the memberships, and, you know, if y'all can't spare it, like, don't worry. It's not required by any means. I just like to see you all here. That's the real treasure and the real payment. Anyways, I am missing things. No, I am not. So anyways, we're just going to wait a little bit longer for people to get in. In the meantime, please say hello. We got Liz Leaf, Cassidy, of course, Mistress Angelica, Hyperion Frequency, Lee. Who are we bringing down, says Hyperion Frequency. We're doing a little bit of a deep dive into a video by Second Thought about how corporate greed has destroyed East Palestine, Ohio, with the derailment of the train full of, well, not so great substances that are very healthy for people, and it's really screwing people over. Hello, Tyler Essay. Easy, sorry. Ugh. Anyways, sorry. Allergies are so bad. I don't think my hair knows what to do today, so I'll just let it do whatever. Do 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 do. Let's see. Are we ready to get started? Should we wait a little bit longer? Do you have any questions to ask? Hyperion Frequency Lee says, I've noticed how strong everyone's been recently and how everyone's been dealing with the nonsense of crazy people. I mean, I feel like it's our specialty as Hyperions to deal with crazy people. As in, put up with their bullshit. rejecting the bullshit while simultaneously moving on and creating an environment that's not based on bullshit. So, I don't know. It's our specialty, baby. We got Mistress Angelica that says ready. We got Cassie that says let's do it. Renaissance Fairy, good to see you, says ready. Tyler Easy says disco ball, demon face, lop lump. Demon faces in the chat. Should we get going on the subject? The subject. What's up, Jack? I just think of Joe Biden, who sadly, Joe Biden, there's something about Joe Biden that is just not all there together, if you know what I mean. Is today earlier than normal time? Just a half hour. I just cut the, usually I start Loppy Lump about 6:30. Loppy Lump. Loppy Load. Usually I start Loppy Load about 6:30, but recently I've skipped Loppy Load and I decided to start at 6 o'clock, so. Not too much of a change, but a little bit of a shift. The Demon Span. Demon Spam. So, anyways. Let's get going, my lovelies. We're going to watch this video by Second Thought. I think I've already watched Second Thought before, so I don't think it should be a problem. I don't know. I'm a little bit shell-shocked from the incident with the silly Christian cartoon. I'm like, we're gonna get blocked again. No, I don't want to do that. Because, so many people watch and react to other people's content. I'm like, what's the method? What's the equation for getting away with that? I'm not trying to do anything wrong, but that stupid Bible cartoon censoring us from watching it, I think that's so over the top. And I still have that warning on my account, by the way. Oh well, we all go to hell, don't we, darlings? Just a couple more. What's with the alien ship nonsense? I don't know. Invaded by Martians. I mean, I don't know. Mistress Angelica, I don't know. I'm not knocking you, but it's just the eye, mouth, eye thing. What's with these aliens, eh? All right. No more alien sounds. and we are going to move on to the video. All right, so now it's time to get serious. It is Worldview Wednesday. We are covering just this little deep dive into how corporate greed destroyed East Palestine, Ohio. There's been that recent derailment of the train carrying like pretty toxic chemicals, and it's pretty much fucked the town over. And a lot of those people can't leave. Like, they have no way to help themselves. Like, they're so entrenched and just stuck in this situation, and sadly not much is being done about that. And even sadder, the American government is just like meh, and just totally looking the other way, and Joe Biden is not helping either. It's just a very big shame thing that's going on. And so we are going to just check this video out by a channel called Second Thought, and I'm doing a raw reaction to that. Now, like I said, I have covered this subject before, and we definitely hit base on these main points of this being very much corporate greed. But we're going to revisit that, and we're just going to, I don't know, just take a minute to soak that up a bit more. What do you mean sobriety? Break my sobriety. Of weed? I don't know. If I'm going to watch Aliens, I'm definitely going to need to smoke weed. Wait, no. No, I don't want to drink and watch. I'll get stoned and watch weird, like, crypto stuff. Like cryptozoology. What the fuck am I saying? Anyways. Oh, thank you so much, Renaissance Fairy. And Cassie got the membership. Let's write that down before we get started. I don't know, if you all want like a stoned and I don't know, a segment on aliens and like crypto or blockchain, no. Oh my god, I could tell you lots of stuff about like crypto and blockchain stuff. I mean, oof. That's a whole other... I just don't fuck crypto boys, okay? Crypto bros. I don't fuck with crypto bros. Anyways, thank you so much, Renaissance Fairy and Cassie. Congratulations for getting the thing. Let me write your names on the board, and then we shall get started on this video because it's very important. But if you would like to see me, you know, react to certain content, I would be open like on Friday nights to do... I don't know, get a little stoned and watch stuff about Bigfoot and aliens and things like that. I think that's a perfectly good Friday activity. But tonight is Worldview Wednesday. We're going to get into the subject, and it's pretty serious. So let's write these beautiful names on the board and get started. All right. We ready? Let's do it. Hey, Imaginista, we're just getting started.
Just a night like any other night. My wife and I were sitting here playing Call of Duty. We heard like a lot of sirens in a while.
We're not even 2 seconds into this and already we're mentioning Call of Duty. Anyways.
A lot of craziness going on, so we got up and we're like, let's go see, you know. The whole sky was glowing.
Oh, that sucks.
A train derailed in Ohio.
A train derailment in a small Ohio town.
The town is under a state of emergency after 50 train cars derailed, causing a massive fire a half-mile long.
38 cars derailed and a fire ensued which damaged an additional 12 cars.
Officials are ordering everyone within that 1 mile radius to leave your home immediately.
We made it a block.
Yeah, they're suggesting you leave. You should leave your home immediately. Like, but what if you can't? Like, what if you don't have the means or the way to... What if you don't have the means to leave? What if you don't have enough gas? What if you have nowhere to go? Like, where's the government assistance already?
You could just see the flames. I mean, they were a couple hundred feet in the air.
Like the doors of hell were open.
If the temperature continued to rise, it could lead to a catastrophic
explosion. It was decided to blow holes in all 5 cars with explosives and burn off the material.
There were hazardous materials on board this train.
They were carrying well over 115,000 gallons of vinyl chloride.
Vinyl chloride.
Norfolk Southern Railroad crews initiated a controlled release to the 5 rail cars with the toxic chemicals.
That in turn produced a huge plume of smoke, and with it, serious health and environmental concerns.
That looks nasty.
Breathing issues.
That straight up looks so fucking nasty. Just about vinyl chloride. Like, I know I've looked this up before, but let's see. So vinyl chloride is used primarily to make polyvinyl chloride, PVC. So it's PVC, a hard plastic resin used to make a variety of plastic products, including pipes, wire, cable coatings, and packaging materials. So it's not known or suspect. It's not a known. Okay, but you don't need that shit burning in the air. So essentially, it's burning plastic, but a butt fucking ton.
This tightness in our chest, severe headaches.
Contaminated drinking water.
Look at all that.
Look at it.
It's all in the bottom of the creek bed.
It's terrible to look at. You shouldn't walk through a creek and see piles of dead things floating past you. Everything in the creek is dead.
There is no way we are safe being here.
This is worse than what everybody thought it was.
It is decimating our businesses.
Governor DeWine puts all the blame on the rail company and says they should be paying for everything.
Tensions flared tonight at a town hall between residents and government officials.
Norfolk Southern planned to be there, but backed out at the last minute because of what they called a growing physical threat to its employees.
What do you need right now from the government and from Norfolk Southern that you're not getting?
We just want answers. You know, how can you come into a little town like this, make a big oopsie, and just go about your day?
This flight is on its way to one of our many destinations across the globe.
We are headed out from our hotel. We're driving out to East Palestine. It's about a 40-minute drive. Found a guy named Luke who is willing to sit down with us for an interview and give us kind of a perspective of the locals in the town about what's going on, how people are feeling. So super excited for that. We're going to go see what this is all about.
On February 3rd,
Renaissance Ferry says basically it's oil. Oil, I mean, like, plastic is from oil, right? Jeez, I'm missing my basic chemistry here. It's definitely not anything good to burn in the air in mass amounts for people to breathe. Kids, it's dead dinosaurs squeezed out in white tubes for you to put together I don't know.
At 8:55 p.m., a Norfolk Southern train carrying high-hazard flammable chemicals derailed in the town of East Palestine, Ohio. About 50 cars came off the tracks, with several catching fire, prompting first responders to trigger a sudden evacuation of the town.
I said it was like a movie. People were coming and going because you didn't know what happened. You had cops coming to the doors telling you gotta go. Town was being evacuated.
That would be so surreal. Wouldn't it be so surreal if you were just chilling in your home and you just hear like a crash and there's all this smoke and this weird light of fire and things like that, and then you have police just coming by and knocking on your door and saying like, hey, you gotta leave. Like, can you imagine opening up the door and being like, what do you mean? Like, you're just sitting there in your PJs smoking a bowl or some shit. Like, you're like, what do you mean I gotta leave? It's like, no, you gotta leave. We all gotta leave. We gotta get out. That is such a surreal situation that I honestly can't even, like, imagine going through. And it makes me really sad to imagine these people having to deal with that fear and that confusion of just like, what do you mean I gotta leave? Like, are you for real? Or is this real? Do we really have to go? And the authorities like, yeah, no, this is very dangerous. Get the fuck out. Get the fuck out or perish.
My name is Luke Glavin. We are in East Palestine, Ohio, about half mile from the derailment. People didn't want to go because they didn't think that it was that serious. But everybody was in a state of, panic. My wife and I didn't know what to grab because you didn't know if your house was going to be blown up or burnt down or if we weren't going to be able to come back because of some other reason. We didn't know.
In the immediate aftermath of the crash, the release of chemicals into the environment, most notably vinyl chloride, a known carcinogen and more generally a toxic chemical, is believed to have caused severe damage to the local environment. Reports and videos from people in the area showed nearby animals sick or dying, with an estimated 43,000 fish and other aquatic animals dying as a result of the derailment. In the most publicized instance, this pet fox died in its owner's arms just days after the crash. But the flames didn't die out on their own. 3 days after the derailment, on February 6th, Norfolk Southern started what's called a controlled burn in order to prevent a possible explosion of some of the remaining train cars. Then, a couple days later, on the 8th, the evacuation order was lifted, and people went back home with some less than reassuring messages from the state government.
Governor, if you were to live in the area, would you feel comfortable moving back into your home?
Look, I think that I would be drinking the bottled water, and I would be continuing to...
Why does this guy look like Beverly Leslie off Wish? Seriously.
To find out what the tests were showing as far as the air. I would be alert and concerned, but I think I would probably be back in my house.
After the accident, I wish that it just would have been dealt with way quicker. The ball would have been rolling quicker than just having Governor DeWine come in here, say it was okay, and the railroad was going to take care of it. I wish that the federal government would have got involved, and that would have gave them, the tracks wouldn't have been in as quick as they were. They laid down the tracks. There was trucks here with train tracks on it the day before the controlled burn. So they were ready to go and get that. That was their main goal, and that was imminent by after the evacuation was lifted. It wasn't even 2 minutes after it was lifted. There was trains blowing their whistles to come through town.
Wow.
But when they came back, many people reported symptoms like nausea, headaches, rashes, and lightheadedness.
Well, yeah.
And understandably, remained concerned about the safety of the area.
So guys, look, this is that film. Just so everybody can see here, I'm gonna step on it. It's already in the soil, so you gotta get it like kind of.
Oh, that's no good.
We're not making this shit up, man.
Headaches. Oh yeah, tingling lips. That was my big thing. Tingling lips, burning eyes, really bad.
Luke told us about a creek just down the street from where he lives, and we decided to check it out for ourselves.
That's not good.
Look at that, how it's bubbling up like that. This film, it just sits on top of the water like dish detergent or something. And the smell it's a really particular chemical-y smell. And this water,
that's not good.
It's right here. Town's right there. There are houses all around this. And that guy over there, we noticed he's been flying a drone over this creek, so they're definitely keeping an eye on the situation here. But that water, man, that is not safe.
So the VOCs that were released from those chemicals, they attach to everything. We have VOCs in our home every day, plastic products, we have VOCs. There's a certain level, and when they set those off, the controlled burn, they attach to everything, fabrics, plastics, everything they just attach to. So they told us to throw away, your Tupperware, your plastic stuff, clean all your stuff, deep clean it. But they said, well, don't use chemicals and stuff like that.
One thing that just came to mind, all of this testing is being conducted by
Norfolk. All of the testing being done right now is 100% Norfolk. They are outsourcing it to companies, and they are coming in here and doing it. The testing that's being done, the air testing, is just oxygen testing to make sure the levels are okay. It's not being tested for toxins and stuff like that. I talked to a guy earlier on the street, and he is actually checking these boxes, and he couldn't even give me an answer of what they're checking for.
I mean, that makes sense. I grew up with someone in my family being a part of one of those types of outsourced or contracted companies that just goes out and tests things. And when you run tests to find out what is in what, it's such a game of specifics. You got to be very specific about what you're testing for what. Are you testing the soil? Are you testing the water supply? Are you testing the air? What are you testing it for? There's so much that goes into that, so many specifics that, you can send all sorts of companies out to just test and then tell the public, oh, we got companies out here testing things. And it's the tests show everything's okay, and then it's just enough information to tell the public that you can go back to normal, but really it's you don't have much information. It's very arbitrary unless you're trying to do something very specific. So, not surprising.
It just says toxins, but they don't even know. That's why town's worried, because they just have people in here doing their job, but what they're doing their job isn't even helping us. So there has actually been some people that have reached out to me that want to do third-party testing. They have labs and such that they're going to do some water testing, and then we are working with some people too that are doing soil testing.
In the weeks that followed the immediate crisis response, as the emergency started to be contained, Norfolk Southern began to face increased scrutiny. And as a response, very early on, the company announced that it would not only continue conducting air and water quality tests, but would clean up the contaminated soil near the crash site, preventing further contamination of the water with a new dam and water bypass, and would be offering compensation to some of the residents of the area. Of course, as with most corporate promises, what's said and what's done are two very different things.
Yeah.
In fact, some of the...
That's what I mean. You could send people out to test, quote unquote, we're testing. It's what does that actually mean? And how is the public supposed to understand it?
Their efforts to look responsible are actually making matters worse.
They're airstripping this, which means the vinyl chloride's coming out of the water and going into the air. Don't let your kids ride their bikes down there. I saw a bunch of kids down there watching these guys pump this water. Stay away. It's going
Keep your
into
kids
the air.
away. Hide your kids. Hide your kids. Hide your wife.
Stripped in a container. You see these rain for rent tanks all over town? They need to be spraying and aerating that water in those tanks and then vacuuming off the air and cleaning the air and capturing it. Right now that stuff's going right into the air. So if you live adjacent to a creek that's experiencing this aeration, you need to keep your windows closed and you need to watch it very, very carefully. And we need to work together to get this practice stopped.
Oh my God.
How do you feel that Norfolk Southern has responded to your concerns? We've heard about payments of something like $25,000 for the town or a $1 million fund. How much money have you and your family seen of that? Is that actually happening? Is this pretty typical for this kind of accident?
So in terms of compensation, they have just offered the inconvenience payment of $1,000 and any reimbursement for food, hotel stay, and clothing. But even then, the clothing was just, you couldn't take them a whole wardrobe. So the $1,000 inconvenience payment was if you lived within the 1 mile. That started first. And a lot of people got really upset because chemicals don't know a 1 mile radius. So they actually extended it to all of the our area code, 44413, that's East Palestine. If you were inside of that, you got the $1,000. I feel that that's a slap in the face because that's all they're offering us.
In the press, Norfolk announced they'd be donating 20...
I got more from the time when my apartment complex, like the building burnt down back when I was what, 17 or something? No. 18 or 19 maybe. I can't quite remember. I'd have to think back, but like there was more compensation from insurance for just the building burnt down by accident by little kids unattended, like fucking around with fire and burning a building down. I definitely got more than what's being said here. And is that per person? I don't know about that. Maybe they're gonna explain it. Let me watch.
$5,000 to East Palestine families and
for food.
Wait, let me backtrack. Hold on.
And clothing, but even then, the clothing was just you couldn't.
A little more.
Your family seen of that? Is that actually happening? Is this pretty typical for this kind of accident?
So in terms of compensation, they have just offered the inconvenience payment of $1,000 and any reimbursement for food, hotel stay, and clothing. But even then, the clothing was just, you couldn't take them a whole wardrobe. So the $1,000 inconvenience payment was if you lived within the 1 mile. That started first. And a lot of people got really upset because chemicals don't know a 1 mile radius.
Right.
So they actually extended it.
Right. So if you're outside the quote-unquote 1 mile radius, but you're still being affected by the chemical and all the shit that's going on, that cuts you out of getting any compensation for the shit that's going on. Inconvenience fee. Sorry for the inconvenience. We're gonna fuck you over some more. Gotta love capitalism.
It to all of the our area code, 44413, that's East Palestine. If you were inside of that, you...
Okay, so then they extended it to the zip code. But still, what if you're just outside of the zip code and still experiencing side effects from this shit?
Got the $1,000. I feel that that's a slap in the face because that's all they're offering us.
Yeah.
In the press, Norfolk...
$1,000? That's nothing. That's chump change. That's literally nothing. That's not enough to make a difference. I'm sorry. That's just... Not in this circumstance. In this particular circumstance where you're receiving compensation for this massive disaster, that is not enough money. $1,000 can definitely make a difference in someone's life, but when you are slugged back and sledgehammered, you take a sledgehammer to the nuts and you're knocked back, $1,000 isn't going to help you recover. It just really isn't.
Announced they'd be donating $25,000 to East Palestine families and establishing a $1 million fund, which for the town's 5,000 residents works out to just $5 and $212 respectively. These amounts are nothing. They're worse than nothing. They're an insult to the people they just poisoned. Hey, we know you need to move out of your home, maybe forever. Here's a couple $100 to start over somewhere else. The future of the entire community.
No joke. No joke. There's just the lack of seriousness for these people who have built their livelihoods in this town, and for them to be just treated as like, oh, just here's a couple of bucks, go start somewhere new. That's not enough. That doesn't fly. That doesn't help compensate for the loss that these people are experiencing, especially, you know, where I say it's not just like, oh, they live there. It's their livelihoods. It's their all the time they spend there. Perhaps they genuinely just love living there. Now they have to give that up. It's just... I'm having a hard time putting into words at the injustice that is. That's not enough for those people. It's not as simple as just, oh, thank you for the spare change. I'm going to skedaddle and catch the next train out of town. Dang, that was the wrong wordage there. Catch the next train. Ha, no. But you know what I mean. It's like, oh, thanks. I'm just going to skedaddle now. Thank you for the $1,000. I'm just going to go start a new life. Like, if you have your whole livelihood built in that place and suddenly that place just doesn't exist anymore, that's going to be a very difficult time for you. And it's just not enough to just throw people some change to deal with that. Where's the government? Where's President Joe Biden? Why haven't we heard about this? We'll find out. I gotta take off my sweater. It's a little stuffy. I'm so happy I have a normal chair. All right.
And all its residents is uncertain, and a few coins tossed by the perpetrators on their way out of town doesn't solve anything.
What's really weighing on my mind today is just the long term and our house value. You know, if I want to sell this down the road and try and make this a rental property, how do
I just thought about that. Like, I just realized, if you own a house in this place and you're given $1,000 to move out of it, but you still are stuck with the property and you have to fucking sell that, who's gonna buy that? I mean, I was already starting to grasp that it wasn't enough compensation, but like, jeez, Lou fucking Louise, if you have already bought your house, you've already have investment into it, now you have to get out, and now it's like, you have to sell the property or just take the whole fucking loss. Stop it. I just, Whoa! Hold on, I'm gathering my wits about me, because I'm just like, I'm feeling the feelings of anger, and then I'm like, gotta keep it in here and just get through this, because this, oh my god, these poor people. These poor people. $1,000 is not enough to cover the fact that you bought a whole fucking house, and it's complete. The whole property of it is completely worthless now. Hey everyone. Rebecca, thank you so much for coming, and thank you for the super chat. Much appreciated. Mush. These poor people. Oh my god. I need more allergy medicine. I'm sorry. Hold on. I have to get another allergy pill. Like, my nasal cavity is stinging. Hold on. Yeah, exactly. Susan says Norfolk Southern should have to buy the properties at their worth before the derailment if the owners want to leave because they don't feel safe. Straight up.
I even bring people in here, you know. I tried meeting up with a guy on Marketplace and he wouldn't even come close to town. Everybody sees this as a chemical disaster, a wasteland. I just want everybody to do what they're gonna say they're gonna do, and I just pray that everything going forward goes smoothly and that our community can once get back to what it used to be, a tight-knit, everybody knows everybody, fun-loving town.
Hyperian Frequency asks, how is all of the country silent about this? For the same reason. What town was it? I forgot already. That has still to this day undrinkable, unusable water. It's like that situation in Southern California where there's that massive natural gas leak and they're like, oh well, I mean, it could spark. Yeah, Flint, thank you. Flint is still got shitty water. And then we still have the situation in Southern California, I believe, where the natural gas leak is happening. I mean, there's so much environmental heinousness that's going on. And believe me, I am no tree hugger. I am the punk that's going to carve my initials into the tree. But even I have limits, man. Limits. With plumes of fucking plastic smoke entering people's lungs. Oh, I mean, people are worth pennies to these big giant corporations. People are pennies. It doesn't matter. They're just interested in the long run of saving money for themselves, making a profit. Yeah, we'll just chuck them some chump change. They can get out if they want. Move out with Aunt Margaret. Who gives a shit?
To understand how the East Palestine derailment happened, we need to go back about a decade.
A decade, folks. Here we go into the history of why and how this happens.
Between 2012 and 2014, North America was hit with a string of devastating train derailments. In 2012, a train derailed in Paulsboro, New Jersey, and it released 23,000 gallons of toxic vinyl chloride gas into the air. In 2013, a train carrying crude oil derailed near Castleton in North Dakota, and around a dozen cars erupted in flames. And the next year, in Lynchburg, Virginia, another train derailed, this time causing 50,000 gallons of oil to ignite and spill into the James River.
So obviously this isn't new. I mean, I figured. I knew this wasn't like the only situation that had this. The city and the state need to pressure Biden to do something. I don't think Biden can be pressured much into doing anything, honestly. The man is just a bit off his rocker.
But by all accounts, the most destructive and infamously memorable derailment of the time has to be the Lac-Mégantic disaster. In July 2013, a 73-car freight train carrying crude oil derailed in the town of Lac-Mégantic in Quebec, Canada. The train exploded, killing 47 people and destroying more than 40 buildings in the Lac-Mégantic downtown area. Catastrophic derailments like this, which accompanied the more generalized, record-level oil train spills at the time, created concern. After all, between 2008 and 2014, the amount of crude oil being transported by train went from around 9,500 carloads to a massive 500,000. It wasn't all that surprising that these numbers were on the rise, and it didn't take long after Lac-Mégantic for these now pervasive crude oil loads traveling across the country to be labeled bomb trains by activists and the press. Train safety was on people's minds in a sudden...
Only this man can get away with having the editing of his video in the background of his video looking professional like that. Do you see this? This is like the video editing background. the fucking like screen of editing your video, the software. This is still looking professional. Like, that's kind of a weird choice, I gotta say, aesthetically. I don't know about that. But he pulls it off, so I mean, what can I say? He also has like the secondary camera angle. I don't know if that's also necessary, but like, interesting. Interesting.
Major way, but for some people, it already had been for a while. Railroad unions had been advocating for better rail safety for years before these crashes. Crashes that destroyed ecosystems and flattened towns. Specifically, unions were sounding the alarm on a trend that today goes by the name precision scheduled railroading. You might have heard about PSR these past few weeks. Precision scheduled railroading is a generic term that encompasses a few different business practices.
We understand PSR to be something, but going on.
All of which are centered around the same goal: cutting costs and reducing the operating ratios for rail companies. Some of these practices are fairly benign and common sense, but that's not true for everything under the PSR umbrella. With PSR, the aim is to get below a roughly 60% operating ratio, which in practical terms means that companies are shooting for only 60 cents of each dollar they make going towards actually running the railroads, with the remaining 40% going towards executive pay and dividends to investors. Investors who, in the last few decades, have increasingly been large Wall Street financial groups. Today, 6 of the 7...
Thank you so much for the super chat, Rebecca Blanchard, who says, it's so sad and angering. What is the answer to get people to wake up and work together to fix this? Well, first of all, you know, mainstream media does not like to cover this kind of shit. So a lot of Worldview Wednesday, I mean, I do cover popular stuff, but I try to cover this kind of stuff too, because I mean, I'm a huge source of media. I'm not, but I feel like it just starts somewhere. Like, it starts with a little community. We get several little communities to join together to make a larger community. We get more and more people to talk about this. You can find articles and things about this. You can find, you know, you can watch this video. You can support this YouTuber talking about this situation. You can share this video. Just spreading the awareness is going to help. It's going to help more than not. Let's just say that. It may not be the end all and be all, but it's like the best we can do right now in a world that's trying to sweep this under the rug. So, And thank you again, Rebecca Blanchard, for the super chat. I like the little kitty.
7 Class 1 railroad companies, the companies with the highest revenues that together make up 94% of the freight rail industry's earnings, use PSR cost-cutting strategies explicitly. And it's arguably the change that's made the profit margins of the top 5 U.S. railroads double these past 15 years. Just to give you an idea of how much money we're talking about here, in the first 6 months of 2022, a handful of rail companies were so flush with cash, they put $10 billion in stock buybacks. And it's not just thanks to PSR. Railroads are a natural monopoly. It doesn't make much sense to compete over the same routes, the same rails, the same land, and the insane cost of getting a rail company started when profits are possibly years or decades down the line. And as a good reflection of that, the industry is currently a tight-knit oligopoly. Around the 90s, mostly led by this guy, rail companies figured out how to take advantage of that, and found that the best way to make profits and increase their investors' returns was to stop acting in the best interest of the public, and to some extent even their clients, by making the rail networks less and less safe, with fewer investments and upgrades, catering more heavily to larger businesses at the expense of smaller companies, and gutting their workforce. The idea being that lower costs could mean a bigger cut of the profits. But what does that mean in practice? 1. Longer trains. Longer trains are the norm for freight companies today.
Freight railroads are now running consistently longer trains, upwards of 10,000 to 15,000 feet. That equates to 2 or 3 mile long trains, or to put it another way, 33 football fields.
These longer trains are harder to stop. If an accident happens, it can quick.
I love America. The only way we can understand, like, measurements is through, like, just comparisons to things. Like, I mean, like, I don't know how fucking big a football field is. Like, I don't go to football games. This is like 33 football fields long. This asteroid's about 2 emus big.
Escalate with more cars getting involved by default. Their heavier weight can cause more damage to the rails more quickly, and they're harder to inspect thoroughly. The reason they're harder to inspect for safety is because PSR also implies 2. Fewer, more overworked rail workers. Since 2015, 30% of the freight rail workforce has been laid off. 45,000 workers. This follows a general trend in the rail industry of companies cutting costs by getting rid of more and more workers.
The railroad workers who remain have been forced to do more with less. They are faced with discipline or dismissal if they refuse to comply, and the consequences of these choices are no longer hypothetical. Carriers are also compensating for reduced staffing by requiring remaining employees to perform work outside of their craft, in addition to fulfilling their regular duties.
Oh, no.
At best, this may involve employees performing tasks with which they are not experienced. At worst, employees may be forced to do work for which they are not qualified.
No. If you are working in a job and your job asks you to do something that's outside of the description that you initially agreed to do, the description of your work title, your position, like if you start doing shit outside of it, if your boss starts asking you to do anything outside of your range of what you agreed to in the application you participated in, or like your work contract, whatever, like don't do it. Trust me, from personal experience, do not work outside your agreed job duties. The moment your work starts asking you that, that's a big red flag that they're trying to cut costs and they're trying to take advantage of you, because they know you will do anything and everything they say so that you don't lose your job, so you can continue to pay your bills. Like, don't do it. It's not worth it in the long run. Keep your dignity. Just don't.
Furthermore, rather than maintaining appropriate staffing levels, carriers are mandating overtime for workers who are already stretched thin and penalizing workers who refuse to come to work when they are sick. In an industry where fatigue is a constant risk factor, exposing employees to additional fatigue by asking them to work longer, faster, or perform multiple jobs, especially while sick, is a recipe for disaster.
You sick?
The
Get
FRA's
cracking.
own safety data shows that since 2009, the number of railroad accidents and incidents reported to the FRA has not meaningfully declined. Derailments, fatalities, and collisions all increased in the years leading up to the pandemic. Given the notorious pressure that railroads put on their workers to prevent them from reporting incidents to the FRA, we suspect that these accidents and incidents are severely undercounted, especially during the pandemic when safety risks have been much higher and normal government functions, including safety inspections, were curtailed. The bottom line is that PSR prioritizes short-term profits over the long-term health and safety of our freight rail system. Between reports from frontline employees of the FRA's own data and the FRA's own data, it is clear that PSR puts rail workers and the public at a real and unacceptable safety risk.
And finally, the last big part of the PSR strategy is 3. Avoiding safety upgrades to train tech and lobbying to make sure they never get imposed. If we go back to all those derailments in the early 2010s, they got the public's attention and motivated regulators in the US to set their sights on rail companies. In response to derailments like Lac-Mégantic in 2014, the Obama administration did improve safety procedures, but just barely. An original rule intended to fit dangerous trains with a better braking system, ECP brakes, as opposed to air brake technology dating back to the Civil War, was completely gutted by industry lobbying before it was passed. Despite the safety concerns of...
They got technology on these fucking trains dating back to the Civil War? You've got to be kidding me.
Regular people in the path of increasingly dangerous trains, lobbyists for the chemical...
They're just like, you know, if it's kind of working a little squonky, just wrap some fucking duct tape around it, she'll be fine.
Oil, and rail industries all came together to make sure that these improved braking systems, which the rail industry had actually been boasting about for years, would only be applied to a few trains. To do that, these companies lobbied to make sure that trains running several dangerous carloads wouldn't be required to have better brakes so long as there were fewer than 20 dangerous cars in a row, or 35 in total over the length of the train. What's more, chemical lobbyists specifically proposed a new, restrictive definition of what a high-hazard flammable train is, to make sure that trains like the Norfolk Southern one in Ohio carrying vinyl chloride would not have to be equipped with this safer braking system. Many known dangerous substances wouldn't fall under the chemical lobby's definition of dangerous, and that way, they could travel on leaner, cheaper, but empirically more unsafe trains. In other words, for these companies, accidents are not something to be avoided, but are rather just another variable in their business model. Safety is a cost that needs to be minimized, not a priority, and certainly not a factor that can take precedence over profit.
That doesn't
To be
surprise
clear,
me.
safety and profit don't always conflict with one another. The thing is that when they do, companies aren't out there lobbying for more safety. Someone was always, inevitably, predictably going to be hurt. And at least right now, it looks like that meant East Palestine.
So disasters like this, I've been saying since day one, it's an industrial disaster. Those can be prevented. They can be prevented, not like a tire blowing on a car prevented. They can be prevented because they should have strict maintenance schedules. They should have strict, that car wasn't a hazardous chemical car or train. How was that not a hazardous chemical train?
And this resistance to safety regulation is incredibly strong, despite freight rail being one of the most profitable industries in the US, raking in over $146 billion.
When you get to the point in your company practices where you prioritize profit over the safety and well-being of living, breathing human beings, you've lost your motherfucking way and you're on the wrong side of history. And unfortunately, this is the reality we live in at the moment. We live in a reality where the safety of people, the well-being of individuals is not in consideration at all. It's, if anything, it's considered a hassle. This is the darkness that we live in. you know, I wish I had all the answers. I wish I had all the answers to this kind of stuff. The best we can do is speak up about it as much as possible. Unfortunately, the reality of the world, like, this kind of practice is so big, grand, and just normalized. It's hard to break people out of this reality and shake them and be like, hey, this is not okay. When there's so many people in this world who are proponents of perpetuating this type of attitude towards people, consideration for people and individuals in the context of making businesses run and survive and work and thrive and things like that. Business ethics, business ethics is a very dizzying and just sort of nauseating pile of shit to sort through. I gotta be honest.
Since 2015. Just to put the price of safety in perspective, the railroad industry itself estimated that it would only cost $3 billion to implement better braking systems. Not a huge expense, but compared to lobbying and just not doing the upgrades, corporations are always going to take the cheaper option.
Always.
After first gutting the Obama regulations, when Trump and the Republicans gained control of the government, rail companies leveraged their funding once again. This time to the tune of $6 million in GOP campaign financing. With the new administration in their pocket, like with the previous government, rail companies successfully made sure that Trump's administration would repeal the Obama-era rules on the basis of a miscalculated cost.
You know, this leads me to explain why, you know, there's so many people who are like, is there such thing as an ethical billionaire, a good billionaire? And I gotta say, honestly, no. Because ultimately, even if a billionaire puts on the facade and the personality like they're there for humanity or they're helping humanity grow and helping humanity to evolve, things like that, it's ultimately a lie. It's a facade. It's just, it's just a part they play, because ultimately billionaires, when they're making that much money, the only way they're able to make that much money is by exploiting other people. And it's a little difficult to explain, especially, you know, like, you know, some people like Jeff Bezos. Oh, doesn't Jeff Bezos do this good thing? It's like, well, you know, obviously there's some things where it's like, yes, that's beneficial to humanity, but like the ultimate facade and just the demeanor and the personality and the whole character trope of a billionaire is ultimately, it's just not good. It's not for the people. It's not, billionaires aren't there to benefit people. They're there because they're interested in making money. Ultimately, even if it's under the guise and the deception of helping humanity, they're ultimately there just to make money. That's why, in my opinion, there just really is no good billionaire. There just isn't. There's no reason to be making that much money all the time. Making that much money involves taking advantage of other people, of their hard work, their efforts, their livelihood.
Cost-benefit analysis. To quickly recap, the initial, relatively weak regulation of the Obama era was repealed under the next administration. Despite Democrats and Republicans desperately pointing fingers at each other for East Palestine, they are both culpable. And today, the Biden admin is acting like it can't do anything to prevent future accidents. On February 14th, 11 days after the derailment in East Palestine, Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg tweeted this: "We are constrained by law on some areas of rail regulation, like the braking rule withdrawn by the Trump administration in 2018 because of a law passed by Congress in 2015. But we are using the powers we do have to keep people safe." This tweet is, plainly speaking, a lie. Pete's department has the ability to redo the cost-benefit analysis correctly, which would bring back the Obama-era rule. It can expand the definition of hazardous materials to include known carcinogens like vinyl chloride, and make sure those trains are treated with increased attention. And it can even impose ECP brakes on certain trains, according to this article in The Lever. But the Biden admin has no more interest in pursuing safety than previous administrations. Before the East Palestine train derailment, the Buttigieg Transportation Department was even considering an industry-backed rule relaxing brake testing requirements. That is, making trains even less safe. Unsurprisingly, once again, 5 major rail unions have stood in common sense opposition to this attempt to make railways even less safe.
I was just gonna ask about the unions.
The sad reality is that over the past decade, the story has remained remarkably consistent. Unions warn about the degradation of safety on the tracks, rail companies use the piles of money they made by caring less about safety to influence policy and make sure that safety is even further reduced, and as a result, we suffer preventable, catastrophic accidents. Doing research for this video, I cannot stress how tiring and frustrating it was to come across dozens of articles, press releases, hearings, presentations at conventions, and testimonials from years ago where people keep saying the same things over and over again. Safety isn't being prioritized. A devastating accident is all but certain. We need regulation and investment in security to protect people from disasters. When profit is the only thing that matters, safety is an unnecessary luxury. It was only a matter of time before something like...
But what is the Biden administration doing?
East Palestine happened, and everyone was just waiting around to see where it was going to hit. And the cherry on top of this blatant disregard for safety is that rail companies are trying to make it seem like their lobbying is actually pro-safety, and even pro-environment. For example...
You can't just spray paint a fucking turd gold and tell me that it's fucking amazing. Like, lobbying money is good for the environment? Since when?
In their comments on the proposed Obama 2014 regulation that would have required higher brake safety standards, rail companies keep referencing how if these regulations are implemented, the cost of rail would go up, and therefore businesses would prioritize truck freight, which is worse for the environment. But rail companies are not only pushing all their smaller clients off onto trucks by reducing their workforce. Just one look at the importance of fossil fuel transportation for rail companies' bottom lines, and the carelessness with which they lobby against regulations that make accidents like East Palestine, with its plumes of smoke and rivers filled with dead fish less likely, reveal how insincere their concern for the environment actually is. And okay, by the time this video releases, we'll certainly know more about the crash and its causes. The point of the past couple minutes hasn't been to nail down the details of which specific regulations and business practices had an impact on this one derailment, but to point out something relevant to just about every derailment in this country. Sadly, they happen all the time. East Palestine is a tragic example of one of the more catastrophic ones, but an even more devastating event could happen any day now, and plenty of less harmful derailments happen every day. The US sees an average of over 1,000 train derailments a year. The purpose of going behind the scenes for a bit is to point out a pattern, not a specific, relevant regulatory failure. A pattern in which unions, the public, and usually smaller, disenfranchised communities consistently have their concerns for safety and environmental protection run over by companies looking for the largest possible margins, and those companies getting the green light from government institutions they've captured. 25 million people in this country live within a 1-mile radius of a crude-by-rail route. Woo! Dangerous trains are all around us, and not by our decision.
That's a lot of people.
The least we are owed is control over their safety. Seriously, what do we all gain from these companies neglecting safety for the sake of executive profits?
That's a lot of fucking people living
Something that came up in our interview.
That's a lot of people. 25 million people living within the vicinity of something that could go wrong. I mean, I'm sure you could stretch that concept over a lot of things, but that's still really concerning, especially when these companies are just like, no, we're not going to invest in any sort of safety protocols or measure or changes or anything. Like, who gives a shit? Like, live your life, girl, live your life.
And just chatting with people around town was how abandoned they all felt by the media narrative around this incident.
This was the second largest chemical disaster in United States history, and it's not being televised or anything like that.
No, it's not. You don't see it anywhere.
We should be getting way more attention to this.
And that's not just a feeling. He's absolutely right that this derailment wasn't being talked about very much. On February 5th, 2 days after the derailment, Pete Buttigieg was on 3 Sunday news shows: CNN's State of the Union, NBC's Meet the Press, and ABC's This Week. Pete wasn't asked about East Palestine, nor did he feel the need to bring it up on any of these shows, with the broadcast focusing almost exclusively on the whole Chinese weather balloon thing.
No, seriously? The stupid balloon? Who the flying fuck gives 2 shits about that stupid balloon? Like, I even covered that. It's like it's such a big waste of time. It's the stupidest, silliest ass shit. And it was just, like, smeared all over the fucking mainstream media. I sit and watch Fox News about it because they're the most comical. And they just kept going round and round and round to it's, like, super dangerous to, like, but it's not a big deal and who cares. But we gotta keep an eye on it because it's super dangerous, but who cares because it's not a big deal. Well, yeah, I know it's on purpose. I know it's on purpose. It's just it's just the fact that it's the balloon. That's why I'm like, really, a balloon? Like, you couldn't have chosen something else? Anything else? Of course they're trying to distract this, but it's like, the balloon, people? Seriously? A fucking Chinese Goodyear blimp that you're just like, look at this over here, a balloon. Susan, would you like to ride in my beautiful balloon? Anyways.
But it's not just Pete. This was a trend. A Media Matters study of the first 10 days of reporting on major cable networks, CNN, Fox, and MSNBC, and broadcasters, ABC, CBS, and NBC, found that East Palestine only received 3 hours of coverage in total for those 10 days. And from February 10th to 12th, it got no coverage whatsoever. And to make matters worse, in those few hours when East Palestine was on America's TVs, the Media Matters study found that the responsibility of rail companies in lobbying away safety regulations and deteriorating safety on the tracks wasn't addressed. To quote the study directly, with little exception, this story has been covered on corporate TV news as an accident, with outlets showing little curiosity about the
This is not an accident. This is a crime.
Circumstances that make these types of incidents not just more likely, but perhaps inevitable. In all fairness, reporting has picked up since those first 10 days, but the framing largely hasn't changed. East Palestine is still being covered mostly as a natural disaster. That's negligent.
We just naturally fucking trucked this shit over the fucking length of like 33 football fields. That's not natural. This is nothing natural. What kind of fucking wool are you trying to pull over people's eyes? This is just insanity.
The press is supposed to hold power accountable. But media institutions and rail companies being owned by the same interest complicates that task. And to add another problem to the pile, in a shocking twist no one could have seen coming, this lack of coverage was seized upon by the far right to try to convey the same white supremacist narrative Trump seized on in 2016, that white conservatives are being ignored because they're white conservatives. Despite Fox being equally culpable of neglecting East Palestine in the days following the derailment, Jesse Waters, Charlie Kirk, Tucker Carlson, Greg Gutfeld, Benny Johnson, Sean Duffy, Lisa Booth, and Brian Kilmeade all made claims blaming wokeism in some way or another for the lack of coverage.
Oh, I love it. Oh, blaming the wokies. It's getting to the point where I feel like I just want to do a big fat something on, like, what is woke, because, like, In a nutshell, it's just like anything and everything people don't like and what they can blame on other people for going wrong. I just, at this point, like, so many people accuse me of being, like, woke myself. I'm like, well, if the fucking morality that I have is considered woke, like, don't exploit people and don't fucking jeopardize their safety for just, like, profit. I don't know. If that's woke, then fucking fuck me. I'm woke, I guess. I don't care. But, like, I just, you know, this whole silliness of, like, it's the woke people. It's the wokeness. The wokies are doing this. It's just, it's silly. It's dumb. It's pathetic. And anybody who utters the sentence, it's like, it's 'cause you're woke or something like that. I instantly just tune out, because I don't think this person actually takes anything seriously. And if they just get down to the whole you're woke as fuck point, it's like you've just signaled to me that you've abandoned all reasoning. I just don't get it. Hey, Morg, thank you so much for coming, and thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate that. Florida is where woke goes to sleep, I guess. Nobody can actually define what wokeism is. What woke is. Like, I've just... So funny. Moving along. We're just about through with this.
And citing the fact that because the residents of East Palestine are largely white and conservative, they got less attention in the press. To be clear, this is a baseless accusation, and implies that disasters in Democrat-leaning communities of color are covered better, which...
Oh, that's sad. So it's like, oh, because this is a town full of, like, white conservatives, that's why it's not getting covered, because the wokies don't want to cover the white conservatives. It's like, I don't give a shit if they're white conservatives. If they're in trouble for the malpractice of major companies screwing around with people's lives, like, I don't think that's right. Like, that's such a sad, sadistic thing to, like, blame on woke people, for the reasoning why there's no help. Like, what are the... It's... These outlets aren't even covering the issue. They're just covering what they think is to blame for the issue. And it's not even the real reason.
Just isn't true.
So many things are making me angry right now about this.
Coverage of public health and environmental crises affecting communities of color is frequently poor in both quantity and quality. But in any case, the primary purpose of this kind of rhetoric isn't to demand justice for the people of East Palestine, who were absolutely ignored, but rather to push a white nationalist narrative of a war on white people. And the result of this approach that all these conservatives took is that it changes the enemy of this story. No longer is the attention on companies who have verifiably neglected the safety of communities all across the US. Instead, the enemy is some mythical woke elite. In both these cases, neglect and diversion, at the height of media attention for East Palestine, large corporate media institutions failed the public. They have broadly ignored the culpability of rail companies and the consequences of their homicidal thirst for profits, and in doing so have weakened people's ability to advocate for their own security. By framing East Palestine as an accident, corporate media companies have made the ruler by which we measure justice. How well does Norfolk Southern clean up its mess? And the answer is, not well. But regardless of how well Norfolk deals with the fallout of this derailment, it's a band-aid on a bullet wound. Not only will this crisis follow East Palestine for decades, long after Norfolk is out of the public eye and the pressure to take responsibility disappears, not only will this crisis not hurt Norfolk Southern all that much, this accident-centric narrative doesn't ask why people are in the line of fire in the first place, and who might benefit from keeping them there. Our last night in East Palestine coincided with a town hall, so we went.
First and second rows have power. If you don't need power, you're not alone. And it feels like it. And
I've been going to for 30 years gets the same runaround. And I can't tell you how many communities feel that these moments are the biggest gaslight of their life.
Literally, a gaslight. Like, literally, fucking nasty ass plastic shit is being lit, and they're like literally being gaslit. in the like interaction sense and in a literal sense, they're being gaslit.
Because you experienced it, you have symptoms, you want to be heard, but you're going to be told it's safe. You're going to be told not to worry. Well, that's just rubbish. I've never seen anything in 30 years like this, and the situation happening in East Palestine.
So it was about an hour and a half. They did give a lot of information about the chemicals that were on the train, which I think will be helpful for the people in the community. There was good advice to go get tested and stuff like that. This was a deliberate choice. This was preventable. All Norfolk had to do was make the proper investments, and this kind of thing could have been prevented. Obviously, that was not the choice they made. They chose to protect their investments, protect their stockholders, and that's how you get disasters like these. That's why you have all these people filing out of this auditorium hearing about their increased risk of all sorts of cancer. So, look, we can talk about suing rail companies all day, but paying fines and lobbying for more favorable conditions is built into their operating cost calculations. Norfolk is okay with putting a little money into East Palestine, maybe even paying a fine or getting sued, because it will always be cheaper to accept a tiny slap on the wrist than to actually invest in the safety of the railroads.
Dang.
The reality is that so long as the profit motive remains the driving factor, nothing will meaningfully change. It's time to nationalize the railways. If an industry is too important to do without, then that industry should be nationalized. No one should be able to profit.
Such an important means for getting supplies and products across an entire country, essentially. These types of ways for people to get products and things across ways to each other. Should that really be privatized to such an extent to where people's lives are at stake when these trains run through a city and they fuck up and cause this massive devastation? They should be nationalized. It should be a national issue.
From a necessary service, especially to the tune of millions of dollars a year, and especially when those dollars are stained with the blood of the innocent, decent people of this country. Nationalization and public ownership are the way forward. It would mean actually investing in safety, operations, infrastructure, and people, not pulling out those 40 cents on the dollar as profit. It would mean empowering rail workers who are there on the ground doing the work, as well as people who live near the tracks, and not catering to a few executives and shareholders who only care about the number going up and don't really care how. Most highways and waterways are already publicly owned in this country, and rail is a public service in countless countries already. It's just not that hard to imagine how this would work. It is past time we stop beating around the bush. The executives of Norfolk Southern, and of the rest of the rail industry, and of the chemical, oil and gas, pharmaceutical, and countless other critical industries, are criminals and murderers. They think that we're a bunch of ignorant peasants and that we're too stupid and powerless to do anything about it. These people serve no productive purpose. They each siphon millions of dollars a year from the people who actually do the work. One day, sooner or later, we'll reach a critical mass of people who realize that we're better off without the profit motive. A better world is possible. If you made it this far, I'd first like to thank you for watching all the way to the end. It really does help. As you might have noticed from this episode, we're starting to tackle much bigger projects here at Second Thought. This episode was the longest one.
I think we've watched just a couple of videos of his. I'm already like a fan of this channel. Like, these are well done. So, am I subscribed? Am I subscribed? Well, I'm gonna like this. And I am subscribed. Okay, good. So, Second Thought is the name of the channel. I don't know. I suggest going and following this channel. This person is very informative.
One we've done, as well as the most expensive. It took countless hours of planning and research, plus 2 of us flying out to East Palestine for a couple days of shooting.
Yeah, of course it was expensive. He literally went out there.
Then a huge amount.
That's like on-ground research and journalism. Like, that's fucking amazing.
Of time in post-production to make this thing as good as it could be. In order to make this kind of content sustainable, I need your help. The nature of our videos makes it hard to keep sponsors, and going to 2 uploads per month instead of 4 has cut my AdSense revenue in half.
Yeah, it's so hard, and I gotta tell you, like, when I finally got to the position where I can monetize my channel, I noticed there's just like pretty much 85% of the stuff I cover, it's put on the back burner by YouTube because something about the topics I cover are just a little too much, I guess. Like, they want YouTube to be more entertainment based, which, you know, there should be definitely that aspect of it, but also the aspect where people like this guy wants to cover like really serious topics, but yet it's just being censored in a way.
If you'd like to help support the channel, the best possible way you can do that is by signing up for Nebula with the link below. Nebula is home to content from all your favorite creators.
Nebula is a platform that I'm a little curious to look into.
And it's a place where we can experiment and produce the content we really want to make, without the fear of age restriction or demonetization. Recording this a few days before you're watching it, I'm going to guess this episode was demonetized. That's why I'm so glad we have Nebula. I can put up meaningful content. I can help share the stories of people who are suffering and who have been left behind by those with the power to prevent these tragedies. YouTube doesn't care about that, but Nebula does. I'll also be putting up a bunch of behind-the-scenes content going forward. Stuff from the shoot that doesn't make the final cut, commentary from the crew, little things like that.
So that's cool.
Getting to see how videos are made has always been fascinating to me, so I'm excited to be able to share that with all of you.
Good.
And now, if you sign up with my link, you'll also be...
Alright, so... Look, this whole situation is an absolute nightmare, and I'm not surprised, you know, at the distractions that are being thrown around to keep people from thinking about the real issue. I'm not, but it's just another reassertion as to why I would rather make content about this kind of stuff versus just making mindless entertainment. I don't think there's much more to say. This guy put it together like so well. He literally went out there on location, talked to some people, looked into situations, went to a town meeting. These people got shafted, absolutely shafted. I feel so sorry for them. Like, they're getting just $1,000 to deal with their situation, and that absolutely does not cover anything remotely close to what they need to move on or get on with their lives somewhere else. And even then, how ridiculous is it to build your life and your livelihood somewhere and then suddenly be told to leave? Even if you were well compensated, the reason that it's happening in the first place is because of neglect and just disinterest in putting some of the profits into safety protocols and safety measures and things like that. This is capitalism, baby. This is what we live under. We live under capitalism, which favors profit instead of people. This is why I dislike billionaires. I don't give a shit what fucking charity they're doing or what thing they say they're doing or how much they say they love humanity and want to help humanity evolve. I think they're full of shit. Because in order to have that much money, you have to be exploiting other human beings. Hands down. But anyways, it's good to be back. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me tonight. I was so sad last Friday when the power was out at my place and I wasn't able to live stream. But I think things will be okay. We should be able to go live Friday and get back to normal. So, all right, my friends, good to see you all. Hyperion Frequency, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate your presence. Laura, good to see you. Mistress Angelica, good to see you. And a big giant shout out to our moderators. I see Susan and Cassie in the house who are moderating. Susan, if you would like to drop a link to the Hyperion Source. I believe the Hyperion Source just released a video, a couple videos maybe, and a live stream. I don't know. I missed a lot. I'm missing a lot. Tyler Easy, good to see you. Cassidy, our royal lurker, good to see you. Thank you so much, Imaginista, for gifting another membership who Mistress Angelica got that. Let me go ahead and write Mistress Angelica on the board before we go. And I am just, God, I am struggling with allergies so bad. We've had so much wind here where I'm at, and it's just blowing around so much pollen. I feel bad because I'm just constantly blowing into these stupid paper towels. Anyways, I want to go watch Mandalorian. It is Mandalorian time. I love Mandalorian. Mandalorian is my favorite. Let's see, who else have I missed? Oh, I see Susan shared the Hyperion Source link. Yay. Good, good. I'm so excited for Friday. Because we were totally robbed of a Friday. That sucked. Being out of power for like 2.5 days, that was rough. Rough. Anyways. Take care, my dear friends. Have a good Thursday. I'll see you tomorrow, Thursday. If Morg is going live, I shall be there moderating. All right. Good night, everybody. Good night. I appreciate you. And oh yeah, Susan just posted the link to the Second Thought. Go subscribe to it. I like this guy already. We're gonna watch more. Definitely react more to in the future. Anyways, Liz Leaf, thank you so much for coming. Thank you all. Have a good night. We'll see you soon.